Hi guys. How's it going? I know, long time no see, huh? Oh my goodness. So I was at Joann's the other day and I don't go to Joann's that often, but I don't even remember why I went in there, but they happen to have all of their cutting things like, punches and cutting mats and all that stuff were like 40% off. So I needed a new cutting mat. And so I grabbed this guy and I kind of like it. I actually like how it sort of absorbs some of the glare off of my desk and, easy to clean, that kind of thing. Anyway, and I also picked up this tab punch board and the frame punch board. These are the We Are Memory Keepers. And I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you guys have these. And I've seen them lots of times, and I always thought I should get those, but I always think I could find some other way to do what these do. And so, but I bought them anyway because they were, cheap. And so I was kind of determined to try to use them in some ways that maybe, I don't know, maybe they weren't intended. Obviously, these will make tabs and these will make windows. This one will make windows, but I really wanted to try making some tags, and I wanted to do some window tags inspired by a video I saw recently by Wendy. And she just she used one of those like window like greeting card things. Anyway, I'll put a link in the description to her video for that. But it inspired me to make some windows. Anyway, I'm not real into using like the security envelopes. I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, I have a bunch of them. I just don't use them. But anyway, so I just have been really kind of playing around with these two punch boards, and I came up with this sort of fun way to make a tabbed window tag. And it also could be, I guess, used as a tuck spot or as a pocket or something like that. The one that Wendy made was actually like kind of like a clip-in little pocket. These aren't necessarily going to be that. They're more just like a tag with front and back. Okay. Anyway, so pulled out a whole bunch of different papers and went through my box of, offcuts and stuff like that. And so here's what I've come up with. So what you need to do if you'd like to, kind of play along, um, you'll need some kind of decorative paper, um, or it doesn't even have to be decorative paper. I've done some with just craft paper too. But something that you like for the front, and then some kind of paper that you would like to use on the back that would be good for like writing on. Okay, like a grid paper or um a real simple sort of like scrapbook paper that you could write on, and not too busy. Like you wouldn't want to use something like that, or even something like that you really can't write on. Anyway, you get the idea. So you'll basically cut out uh, a front and a back, and I think it's better to just cut them at the same time, and that way you don't necessarily have to measure. You don't have to measure them. So let me just grab. I'll use that, and then actually, hang on. I'm just gonna cut a 12 by 12. Do a 12 by 12 of that, and then let's use one of these too. Actually, I don't like that one. Hold on. I mean, I like it, but not for this. So something like that, that has kind of a lot going on so that it'll show up around the borders of our windows. So I'm going to just cut off this little strip along the bottom of this. I actually kind of like that little strip with all those numbers on it. I have such a hard time throwing away any scrap of paper. It's just crazy. Anyway, so I'm just starting off with two 12 by 12s, and I have them front to back, or back to back, excuse me, back to back. And then I'm just going to seriously just eyeball about half, and then I'll cut this into some sort of like tag size pieces. Okay. So now I've got my front and back, and I'll just stack them up. You could do these any size you want. You know, they don't have to even be, um, tag shape. They could be squares, or, they could even go like different directions. Like, let me show you what I mean. So you could have some, and make this just a little wider. Like we could do some, keeping this oriented, vertically, but I'm talking about the image on the paper. Anyway, so cut some, and we'll do some that are actually, oriented that way, horizontally. And let's do some smaller ones too. So I'll cut these into smaller shapes. And then I'll keep this one that size. Okay. So really you shouldn't have much as far as waste if you're using two 12 by 12s. Now I could have used a piece of craft paper or something like that for the back, but okay. And then I want to grab my tab punch board. And if you have one of these and you've used it, great. It won't be, hard for you to kind of follow along, but I'm just going to sort of go through how this board works so that people who don't have it can kind of follow along, and actually learn how to use it at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, okay, so this section down here is where you actually cut the tab. And I did actually do some little, I did some sets of like small file folders. Okay, so all of the cuts that were required to make this, you can do on this board, including this little notch here and the corner. So you can round the corners on here too, and also cut out the tabs. Since we're not measuring these, I'm really going to kind of do this more like freestyle, and I just want to show you how the board functions and where I've been lining up my cuts. Okay. So since I'm not trying to make a set of file folders or something like that, I'm really just trying to make a tab on the top of this tag somewhere. Okay. So this little guy is a guide that you would insert in either of these two sets of holes. Okay. So if you're just trying to round the corners, you would use the set on the right, and that'll just give you a little corner round. If you want to cut out the left-hand side of a tab at the very edge of your paper, then you would insert it into the left-hand side of the left-hand set of holes. So I'll show you what it looks like. So if you insert it there and then you just take your paper, stick it, align it there, just push it up into the corner and punch, then you'll get that shape right on the corner. Okay. So since we're doing a front and a back, I'm going to take the back, I'm going to keep it oriented the way that it's going to ultimately be in the end. I'm not going to turn it over or anything. Keep it, with the back up and insert it in the same place and punch. So it'll line up just like that. Okay. And then if you notice over here on the right hand side, there's three little lines. There's a set of three lines. One is for a small tab, one is a medium, and one is a large. So what you'll do is you'll take out this little guide thing, and then it just kind of stores right there. And then we'll take our, this is going to be the front of our tag, and you'll turn it over, and then you'll line it up you'll line up that little corner with either small, medium, or large. Now, if you want to make your tab a lot wider than that, then you could just use this and insert it here again and just do the exact same thing that you did on this side over on this side. Although it's not going to be the same shape tab as what this board makes. Like it'll just be like a little short tab, okay? But I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just going to do this using the large size tab. Okay, so I'm lining up that corner with the very far right line. Okay, I'm gonna line that up there, and then I'm gonna punch. So see, it makes a little bit like deeper cut than this, right? So then this part right here, we're going to cut off. So since I turned this one over to cut this punch. When I cut the back, I also need to turn it over, right? And I'm going to line this one up with that large size tab indicator, okay, and cut that side. And then what you'll do is you'll turn it upside down basically and insert it underneath this little like holder bar thing. I don't know what you call it. And then push it up to this little kind of like raised plastic piece at the, in the center. And then this little cutter has a little tab right here. This actually turns around, which I don't know why it does that, but anyway, this little thing actually fits into a notch that runs along this bar. So that is what goes in that goes in that little notch. And then this little blade is where you're actually going to cut the paper with. Okay. So you want to insert the notch, insert this little bump into that notch, and then the blade in between the tab and the excess paper that you want to cut off. Okay. So you kind of have to be careful when you do that. Like otherwise, like, you could cut the tab accidentally. So anyways, and then you'll just cut that off. And you could use scissors to do it, but it's kind of hard to get it like perfectly straight. Anyway, so we cut off that excess, and we'll do that on both pieces, on the front and the back, or a little tab or a little tag. Okay. So I've got that. I've got the front and the back tab made, and these will line up really nicely when we put it back together. And then it's kind of hard to, you really can't do the corner. I mean, I guess you can. It depends on how wide this piece is. Like if this was much narrower, I wouldn't really be able to use the corner rounder. It just wouldn't fit in there. But if this piece is like a lot wider, say like if it's like that wide, then it's no problem to use the corner rounder. But I'm going to just, you can do it if you can like gently kind of bend your paper up a little bit like that, and just make sure that it's pushed up to that little guide. Okay, so I rounded off that little corner, and I'm going to do the same thing on my back piece. Otherwise, like if that was much narrower, um, what I would probably do is just use a pair of scissors and just gently, real carefully, just cut that corner off. I would actually do it with both pieces together and do them at the same time so that they definitely will match up. Anyway, so then what I've been doing is actually cutting this little tab, this little corner shape into the bottoms of my tags, but some of them I'm doing a different direction. So I'm actually putting the tag piece in oriented differently. See, so this way it's like vertical, and on the bottom it's more horizontal. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, there's just ways to use it that I think are kind of cool, and to make your tag shape kind of interesting, rather than just rounded corners or, cut off corners or whatever. Anyway, um, so that's the basic way to use the tab punch board for making tabs on a tag. Um, I think I should show you also how I've been doing these like more horizontal ones. So you could put a tab shape over here on the side, or you could put one up here on the top somewhere. And I think that looks really cool. Um, so let's do one that's really wide on the top of this tag. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little guide out. I'm not even going to use it. And I just want to show you that, like, if you have like a file folder, like if you're making a file folder and, say it's like 10 inches wide. So there's these measurements that go right along on the left-hand side here. And it starts at 4 inches and then 5 inches, 6 inches, 7 inches. So this is where you would line up the edge of your paper if you're doing a center tab. So like on this one, since it's in the middle, I don't want to use the corner. I can't use the corner. I have to measure it some other way. So I know that this paper is 6 inches wide. So what you do then, if you want to make a small tab, there's little letters in the, so I'm here in the 6-inch section. Here in the 6-inch section, you can see there's small, medium, large. There's 3 lines that are associated with the 6-inch measurement. So what you would do is you would line up the edge of your paper to either small, medium, or large, okay? And you would punch that side, and then you would turn your paper over and line it up to either small, medium, or large on the other side. And I just wanted to show you that's what that's intended for. This is meant for punching your center tabs. So I don't know how wide this paper is, so I'm not really going to worry about measuring it too much, but I am going to pick one of these that's going to allow me to punch sort of close to this side, and then I'm going to use the same line and line it up on the right hand side. And like I told you, I'm not trying to make these um, as a set of tabs or anything like that. So I line that up with I used the 4-inch measurement on the medium size tab. Okay, so that's where I lined the edge of my paper up, and then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to line it up on that side again. So I know that this is going to be in the center. So I'm going to do the same thing with my back piece. I'm using the medium 4-inch tab line. Okay. So now I just need to cut off this piece and this piece. It's kind of difficult to cut two pieces at the same time with this little board. So I just do them individually, and that way I don't really risk um movement. Like, it's easy for it to kind of pull. If you have to push too hard, it's easy for it to sort of pull. So I just cut one piece of paper at a time with this little guy. Another tip that I've noticed with this is that when you're cutting, um, I would always put whatever side you want to look at, I would have that facing up, because when you cut, I don't know if you can see it, but when you, this little trimmer, it has a tendency to leave a little bit of a ragged kind of edge on the underside. You can kind of see it there. So, and that kind of bugs me. So I've been trying to remember to always cut with my good side up and my kind of like waist side down when I'm cutting that excess off. So you can see it. You can see it on here too. You see what I mean? How it's kind of jaggedy right there, but you can't see that on the nice side of of my my paper. Anyway, I mean, you can kind of see it, but it's not as noticeable. Anyway, so now I've got a tab in the very center, and it's a nice wide tab. So I could make a tab go all the way to the edges too. You just have to figure out like where you want to punch it. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm just saying, it's just kind of fun, and I think it turns out really cool. So you could also use that very edge, like if you use the left-hand side guide, and again, do that thing where, you kind of bend this up just gently and make sure that it's kind of pushed all the way up into the corner. Punch that down, and then you can get that little shape right on that edge too. So, I mean, that's maybe a little much, but I just want to show you that looks kind of cool too. So, and then we can, again, punch these corners to, going the other direction. So anyway, it's just kind of fun to play around with, and, just making different size tags and using these different ways of punching the corners, and, um, just playing around with it just to make something kind of unusual. So anyway, just remember that whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the back. Otherwise, it's not going to match up. And, just try to stay on track as far as like, if I turn this one over to do something, then I need to turn this one over in the same direction. So I do a lot of like putting them together, and then whenever I pick it up, I remember that, okay, I flipped it over this way, and then I'll set it down here, and then I remember I had to flip it over this way and punch, and then I put them back together, so that every time I do one function on the punch board with the front, I automatically then do it with the back. Since it's really hard to punch through two layers of paper, especially with cardstock, it's hard to punch through two layers at one time. If you're using thinner paper, you might be able to do it without any problem, but this 49 and market paper is pretty thick. So anyway, so that's just one little thing. I've done I've done some where I've just done like uh, really small tabs on some of them. You know, like I just did like a little tab right on the side on this one. So you can see, you can make, see, like this one's even smaller. So I'm just trying to show you, like here, this one is kind of funny. It's just like a little skinny little tab. So you could use like masking tape to kind of mask off wherever you punch. So like, so that you can do the same thing to the back, right? Like use a piece of masking tape maybe, and you'll see I put some masking tape on the frame punch board too, just to, because I've been using it for some other things too. Anyway, um, so that's basically what I'm doing as far as cutting out the tag shapes. And these, none of these are measured. They're just, they're just different sizes. But I know that I have a front and a back that match. So, and I just keep them that way until I punch them. And all the way through the whole process, you want to make sure you keep your front and back together. Anyway, okay. So we got that. So that's pretty much it with the tab punch board. And then the frame punch board is really fun. Like, obviously there's lots of ways to, punch a frame out. And I've been using a lot of my like Thinlit dies and punching different shapes out, and making like windows that are circles or you know rectangles or squares and stuff like that. But I just kind of wanted to show you how I've been using the frame punch board. And it's kind of fun to do if you want to make like a real like narrow, like the shape of a window that you would find on a security envelope, like a narrow kind of long window. You can do it using this board, but when you're when you're punching with the tab, it can get a little wonky. So that's why I have these pieces of masking tape on here. Anyway, so again, you want to make sure that whatever you do to the front, you also do, oh, sorry. You're not going to do anything to the back. You're not going to punch out a window in the back unless you want it to be transparent. Okay. So that's just the only thing, that would be different. If you want to be able to see right through it, then you would need to punch the same window out of the back. Okay. I'm not making any like that at the moment, but who knows? I've done crazier things. Anyway, so if you already have this board, then you kind of know exactly how it works, but or maybe you have it and you just haven't used it, and because maybe it's confusing or something. So I'm gonna try to, maybe help people understand how it works. I mean, it's not that complicated, but it can be confusing when you're trying to get a window punched into a specific like section of that piece of paper. Okay, so I thought what we would do is try to punch a rectangular window right in this section of this tag. Okay, so I know that I need to punch about right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little guide, and I'm going to put it on its widest set of holes. So there was 1 inch, 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/4 inch. And then down here is where you would put this little guide if you want to do just a rounded corner. Okay. So using this little removable piece, I'm going to put it in the 1-inch pair of holes. Okay. Because this is going to go in here and I need this to punch at least into this part. Now, I've been doing some actually a little bit wider than that. And that's why I have these pieces of masking tape, because I've been punching some even wider, but that's something that you might want to play around with if you have this board and you want to, try punching it into different areas of your paper. So, but I know that this tab is about 3/4 of an inch in width. So I know that if I set this to the 1-inch setting, it's going to give me a 1/4 inch border at the top, or it's actually not the top, it's the side of my tag. Okay. So that's going to be there. And then we want our window to be in this area, right? So that I have this turned upside down with the front facing up. Okay, so I'm going to move this one now from the 1-inch position all the way down to the 1/4 inch position. So that's going to make this, it's going to give me a narrow border along this side. Okay, so when I insert this and push it up to both of those guides, this is at 1 inch and this is at 1/4 inch. Okay, so when I punch that, I've got my bottom left corner of my window punched out. Okay. Now we need to punch the top, but I don't want it to go up to here. I want it to stay down here. So what we need is we need to turn this over, and then I'm going to move this one up to the 1 inch, and I'm going to put this in and see if that's going to work. And I think it is. So I turned my, so this is how it's this is how it is oriented before any window is punched, right? So we turned it this way to punch the top right corner. Now I need to punch I need to punch this corner. So I'm actually going to turn it over so I can get that corner under the punch. Okay. So I know I'm probably making this sound a lot more complicated than I should be, but if I was doing the back also, then, I would be doing them at the same time. Like I would do one punch and then I would do the same to the back. And then I would do the second punch and do the same to the back, and until I've gone all the way around. Anyway, so let's punch that one. So you can see this is now the top left corner of my window. So I've got it down 1 inch from the top and I've got it in 1 inch from the edge of my tab. Okay. So now we need to punch this corner and this corner. Oh my gosh, it's getting confusing. Okay. So I know that I need a punch in this little quadrant down here. So I'm going to turn it over, and I know that I need to have it in 1 inch from this side, and I need to have it 1/4 inch from this side. So I'm going to take this one and move it down to 1/4 inch. This one I'm going to leave in the 1-inch position and punch. Okay. So now I've got my other corner done. Now I need to do this top corner, and I think that it's already set up for that, right? So it's 1 inch down and 1 inch, 1 inch from each side, top and side, right? Whoops, no, it's not. This needs to go up to 1 inch. See? Okay, there we go. Yeah, I needed to move it up to 1 inch. It was on 1/4 inch. Oh my gosh, I probably just totally confused you guys. Okay, see, that's why you just have to kind of remember exactly what you're doing on this side, on the front. If you're trying to make a window that you see all the way through, you really need to do the same thing like as you go with the back. Otherwise, you're going to wind up throwing away a lot of paper, and I have. So since I bought these 2 punch boards, I've thrown away a lot of paper. Anyway, so now I've got my corners punched, okay? So now I need to trim this piece out, okay? So this little guy is my guide to trimming out this waste paper in the middle. So it's also set up at 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/4 inch. So I know that this is 1 inch, so I'm going to put it in the 1 inch guide. Now, just to verify that, I'm going to put my paper in there again with the positive side up and the negative side down. And I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to make sure that where I'm going to be cutting, see, this is the line where it's going to be cutting, it lines up with the top of my window. Okay. And again, this has one of those little cutters. But the blade goes up this time. On the tab board, the blade goes down unless you turn the board around. But anyways, so you want to be sure that you line it up where it's where it's in the space that's been punched out. The blade is in the space that's been punched out, and just cut. You have to go slow, because if you don't, you can accidentally cut into this part of your paper pretty easily. Now I have another edge that is at the 1 inch. So just kind of pull it sort of slowly, cut that out, and you'll feel it release when you're not cutting paper anymore. Now I know that this is also 1 inch where my tab is. Okay, so cut that one out. And now I need to move this guide up to the 1/4 inch slot. Okay. Did I make that really confusing, you guys? I probably did. Anyway, but I got my window punched in the area where I wanted it. So, so I think that's pretty cool, you know. And then as far as rounding these corners, it won't really fit in there to do that. And it won't really fit in this corner rounder, and I know that it won't fit in the corner chomper. So I'm just going to cut it using a pair of scissors. I'm just going to round that corner off kind of carefully, but I'm doing it with the front and back together so that I know that they're going to match. Even if it's not a perfectly rounded little corner, at least they'll be the same, right? Anyway, so that's that, and then I'm going to round these little corners. I love this corner rounder. It's great. I actually saw this on Amazon, and it's nice because it doesn't leak scraps all over the place like the corner chomper does, and because it collects them in this little tray, and it pushes them all up here. I mean, it collects them all in this little area, and it's super easy to just dump it. Anyway, and it has 3 different sizes of corner, small, medium, and large, and it's pretty strong. Like, it'll punch through pretty heavy cardstock easily. Anyway, I'll put a link in the description for that corner rounder too. Anyway, so there's my little tag with my window exactly where I wanted it. But like I said, obviously, you know, if you have a collection of you know, dies that cut in, you know, circles and squares and rectangles and ovals and all that. You could totally use those. And I have cut some out on some of these guys, just using dies, you know, um, with the Big Shot. So I did some like that. Here's an oval, and you know, just like a little tiny square, because some of these obviously you could never cut an oval on that frame punch board, but so some of the little dies are nice to use because you could get two on one, you know. And it also some of the Sizzix uh dies, they'll emboss the frame too, which is kind of cool. So see, I've done some. This was done on the frame punch board. So was this one. See, I did a lot of this kind of shape because I'm making these for journals that I'm working on. Anyway, so I just kind of wanted to show you guys how I'm making a bunch of these tags and give you some ideas. I thought, you know, it's a great way to use up a whole bunch of paper scraps or, you know, offcuts and stuff like that. It's a great way to pull out all your little, you know, dies and paper cutting. See, like I have these ones, which are really fun. And I mean, I never use these things. They just sit in a drawer in one of my filing cabinets. And I thought it would be fun to even use like this little shape to cut a window, or use this little stamp die to cut out a window, you know, um, all kinds of things. I could use this little tab shape and cut a window with it, or use, um, where are they? I got these numbers, you know, to cut some number shapes out of, um, you know, in some of these, which I intend to do. But I think that would be really fun. And anyway, kind of junk journaling, right? So so that's that. I'm going to end this video, and then I think what I'll do is I'm going to be gone for about 2 weeks. I'm going over to Seattle to house sit, and I won't be making any videos while I'm there. So I thought I'd better get at least one or two done before I leave, because I miss you guys. And uh, I'll make another video tomorrow and show you how I've been kind of putting these together and embellishing them, and, you know, kind of working on them, since this video is already 42 minutes long. So, but yeah, so I'll do another video and show you what I've been doing with these after I get them all cut and punched and all that. Here's a little sneak peek. So, I haven't made that many, but I've been working on them, and they're just really fun, you know. So anyway, so we'll do that, and I'll show you how I've been embellishing them. Okay. All right. I love you guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon. Okay. Bye for now.